Hey everybody, so it's yard sale season. I hope it is where you are. Some of you probably live in places where it's yard sale season year round, but for us, we've had a few weeks here where yard sales have been going, and hopefully I'll be able to get out to some of them this weekend. So today's video is not like a thrift with me. Even though I'm sitting in my car. I thought today we would just talk about some things that I want to look for this yard sale season. And these are things I could also find at thrift stores and things like that, but just something that I'm gonna, like, in the back of my head, I have in my mind that I want to see if I can find while I'm hitting some yard sales and estate sales this summer. So a lot of these things, we're just going to talk about like 10 different things. They're things that I've noticed as trends as I look at other resellers and the things that they're selling, things that they've mentioned. Some of these things are definitely driven by trends, okay? Cottagecore, things like that, things that are on TikTok. So these may be fairly short-lived, okay? So this might be, this is my warning to you. This isn't going to be like keep these items on your BOLO list forever. It could just be this year, this next few months or something like that. The cottagecore one has been going for a little bit, but so we're going to just see how that one ends up doing. But some of the prices on these things might surprise you, and they're things that aren't necessarily things that my brain is trained to look for. And so I'm trying to kind of get these things into my brain. I thought I would share them with you and see if you've had any success with these things or if you come across them in your searches as well. So that's my little caveat, is just, this might be some of these things might be short-lived, the hype that's happening. But let's just see if we can find them, and then let's report back. Let's, as the summer goes on, let me know if you find any of the things from this video. That would be fun. So let's go to the computer and I'll just show you some general prices and things like that. Okay, so as I said in the intro, that a lot of these things are driven by certain trends, and the cottagecore, granny core trend is still going strong. So there's a lot of nostalgia involved in that with 80s and 90s kitchens and things like that. So one of the first things that I wanted to take a look at were vintage wooden bread boxes. Now, this is something that kind of came to my attention, and I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised with how well these are selling, and how much certain styles of them are selling for. So if I just kind of this is just an ended recently one. We have like just a plain accordion style roll top one, got bid up to 26. But then we have some with these, this hand painting, the home sweet home. So notice that they use these keywords, 90s, cottage, country, and that one sold for $140. We have this whitewashed one for like $131. Here's $180 for another home sweet home. And then we get into this style, and we'll pay attention to that style a little bit. This one is a crossover with another trend that we're going to talk about, which is the country goose. But let's quickly just switch it to the highest ones. Again, I have not done the deep dive into whether some of these sold with best offer or anything like that. These videos for me are always just like starting points for you to kind of do your own research, but it kind of hopefully will put some of these things on your radar that maybe weren't on your radar before. So as we can see, this first one sold at an auction, and so it did sell for $355. Another one of the roll tops with the home sweet home. And then we see this style quite often. This is more 1970s, but it's got that country look, that rustic country look that people are looking for right now. So we've got $350. As you can see, it's this style that is dominating the results. Maybe one of you has one of these somewhere and doesn't really use it. So just throwing it out there for you to take a look at. Okay, so moving on from the bread boxes, we also have the country geese that we just mentioned. Now, If you follow my channel, I've talked about the country geese. I had kind of seen this trend coming last year, and so I had started collecting things up at yard sales when I saw them. But you know me, I'm really bad at actually getting things listed on time. So I was actually proud of myself. I knew exactly where they were. I went out to the garage. I collected up the various pieces. I think what prompted it is I had found a pair of salt and pepper shakers by Anchor Hawking with the country geese pattern. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to list those, I should go find all that other stuff and get that listed too. So I did that. And most of the pieces have sold, right? So there's some very specific ones that, you know, a certain look to these geese that you want to, that seem to do better than others. It's very specifically the geese with the blue ribbon around their neck, or some kind of ribbon around their neck. Like, for example, I have a dish towel that hasn't sold yet, and it's a goose with a ribbon, but she's wearing a bonnet, and then she's got little goslings with her. So it's very more mother goose looking, slightly different. And even though I get a lot of interest on that towel, nobody has pulled the trigger on it yet. So that one's just moving a little bit slower. So some of these country geese items, I didn't get like huge money for them. It's just that it's trending. So it's like moving fairly quickly. And sometimes that's also important in our reselling business as well. Okay, so one of the names we want to keep an eye out for as we do this, let me see. I know I had already passed some. Oh, there's a bread box, 240 with some geese on it. Okay, so let me just pop over. We're gonna, oh, maybe this is it. Nope. Let's pop over to, here we go. Here's an example. A name you want to keep an eye out for, or a pattern you want to keep an eye out for, is by International China, and the pattern was called like marmalade geese. So let's look at replacements real quick to get an idea of what that style looks like. And as you can see, there's all sorts of different things. Now you will find, I think if I scroll down, there might even be some more examples. There's a chip and dip, there's spoon holders, there's glassware, hurricane lamps, flatware. Now, wouldn't that be ironic if I had some country geese in my stash? That would be funny. I should probably try to dig those out. I just think they would sell quickly. The problem, a lot of times the problem with these plastic handled ones, they are either broken or people use them in their dishwasher, and so the pattern is faded quite a bit. So those are a little bit harder to come across in really good condition. This wood napkin holder would probably fly out the door. And I know there is a bread box that's associated with this too that can sell for pretty good money. Okay, so I wanted to give you an idea of some of the pieces to look for. If we add that to our search, then, yes, sorry about the coffee. We do have, I added country goose marmalade. And so some of the things we saw already, the canister set, the bread box, you know, again, you're not going to retire, but, you know, $65 for a colander, $661 for the coffee maker. Oh my goodness. Okay, so when trends can go kind of hard. And I'm thinking people are adding the word marmalade into some of their listings, even if it's, you know, not technically accurate. They're using it as a keyword, not something I necessarily recommend. Okay, curtain panels, all sorts of things. So the country geese still seem to be doing pretty well. So I will continue to keep my eye out for it at yard sales this year. Let's see. Oh, okay. So kind of along the theme, these warm wood items, these country style things seem to be doing pretty well. So I did a search for wooden shelves with hearts. Okay. So just cute little country knick-knack shelves. Look, $52, $15 for that little thing, $29.99. Little step trinket wood shelf curio. It's got little hearts underneath. And I'm going to show you something real quick. Okay, so I've had this video in my head for a little bit, And so I already kind of had obviously these items floating around in my head, and I came across this at a thrift store the other day. So I was super excited about this. I haven't listed it yet because I wanted to make this video first and show it to you. But I paid $4, I think, for this. I don't think it was half off or anything. But super simple little thing. And as you can see, it's very similar to the one there that is shown that sold for $39.99 or some such price, best offer. But I saw some other ones listed in that $30 to $40 range as well. So, you know, something that could maybe easily get overlooked at a yard sale, a thrift store. Again, my brain is so like trained to look for mid-century or, you know, things like that, that this stuff that I grew up with, this, you know, cute country 80s stuff that my mom didn't really get into, but we had family friends that did. And it just is not something I think to look for, but it's definitely something that certain generations are looking for. And I think, you know, this popped into my head as I was making this video that, you know, nostalgia is always designed to kind of, it makes you feel better, right? So this style is very comforting, the grandma core. So with the world kind of a mess, right? I'm wondering if that's what's just people are kind of reaching for those comfort. Tell me what you guys think. You know, I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here, but anyway, little wooden shelves, and it might not be necessarily shelving. I saw some posts about like a quilt stand, quilt rack with the hearts at the end, or like magazine rack, or, you know, different things like that. But definitely that kind of country look with the hearts just it seems to be making people happy right now. Okay, so along a similar line, something that I had on my vanity when I was a young pish posh. I wasn't even a posh yet. But these little wooden jewelry box armoire style seems to be having another little moment again. People are looking for these warm woods again. You know, and I'm not positive how much the market, like, was it super low on these things? This is just something that's never been really on my radar as something that I thought people would want, because it seemed like a very dated item to me. Now, when I first learned about this was because of an Etsy seller that I follow on Facebook, Thrill of the Find, and she was bringing out that some of the prices on these, she could get a better price on Etsy than she can on eBay. We've talked about that before. So some of these trending things you might be able to do a little bit better on over there. So I actually found one of the ones that she had sold. And as you can see, she got $74.99 for this little jewelry box. 80s, 90s, that kind of style. Now, I did come across one at the bins the other day, and I ended up not buying it because I'm a little overwhelmed with inventory at the moment. But I also, it needed a little bit of work. One of the little hardware pieces was missing, and I just decided not. It would just end up probably in a pile, and so I didn't want to end up, you know, cluttering things up even more. But for the right price, the right condition, I would definitely consider picking up one of these little jewelry armoires and making sure that I cross-post it over to Etsy. So does that surprise you? Do any of these things surprise you so far? Just let me know in the comments down below. Okay, let's see what else we're talking about. This one comes with you know, the jury's still out on this one. I had also heard that these can do well on Etsy. And again, it's going back to that 80s and 90s. The quilted fancy, you know, all of us probably had a crafter friend who made one of these just quilted photo albums, right? But again, here's the keyword, cottagecore. You know, so if you're getting it at the right price, again, I've heard they're doing better, you know, on Etsy than the prices you're getting on eBay. I kind of passed up a couple of these so far. I wanted to hold out for something maybe like this that's very country looking, very country floral, even this one. See, on Etsy, they're asking 35 to 50. I was told that's about the range that they're selling for. So this one I have a real hard time with. I don't know why. I guess if it makes money, that's fine. But I'm waiting for like the perfect one, because I don't want to buy some that are like so-so and then they they just sit. Anyway, okay. Tell me what you think of that one. The jury is still out for me on that one. Okay, so let's get away from the cottagecore thing. This could be, this is a very well-known kind of be on the lookout item right now. So this might not be news to any of you, but just in case, fairy lamps are having a moment. So I just did a search for fairy lamps vintage Fenton. Okay, Fenton glass. And the prices are really high. I've read some posts on social media from true collectors who are not resellers, who are just so upset about how hard it is to find what they collect, and that because of a trend or something that's happening, like they can't afford to collect it anymore. But these things, tend to kind of like blow up and then they die back down again. But in the meantime, keep your eyes open. And they, what I need to do is, I could see that there would be instances where you would only find the base, right? And it might just look like a bowl or something like that. So I'm trying to educate myself on what just the base of a fairy lamp would look like, because you can still make some pretty good money on that. A lot of times there's several pieces that are involved with the fairy lamp, and so if you can learn what some of those pieces look like, then you could probably make a little bit of money. Now, colored glass seems to be doing better than the clear. Unusual colors are going to sell for higher. Fenton is not the only company that does this. This is just the one that I decided to just kind of share with you. Now, the closest thing I found to a fairy lamp so far, it technically is one, but I found a couple of these at a thrift store recently, and they are, I forgot to look it up, Bernardo, sorry, it still has a price sticker and everything. I know it's hard to see. But they're basically like a bisque porcelain, and you do put a little tea light or something inside, and they're more of like a lithopane style. I'll pop up a picture of what these look like lit up. I haven't even researched the two that I got. This looks like a cityscape on this one, but they can be floral, they can be whatever. So these aren't going to be like huge money, but they, like I paid $2. So you know what? I was just excited to kind of be fairy lamp adjacent. Not quite the big money ones, but kind of along the similar lines, and something I probably would not even have looked twice at, because I didn't know anything about them, right? And to me, this doesn't look like, the iconic thing that you're seeing the high prices with on the screen. So I'm glad I noticed them, and we're going to see how they do. Okay, so along similar lines, the henna nest thing is right there up there with the fairy lamps, right? Things that used to just be like, you'd see them a dime a dozen everywhere. All of a sudden, they got super popular. Now, the caution that I'm going to put out here is that they also, sites like Temu and places like that are flooding the market with fakes, imitation, you know what I mean, like modern, I guess, reproductions. So if you look at this one, it says Indiana style, right? And I'm not going to go into the differences. There's information out there if you want to research like how to identify the fake ones versus like the real vintage ones. But anyway, so some of the different colors can do really good. It's a Mosser glass, 250, 277 for this nice blue one, and it'll depend on size, things like that. And just keep in mind that it doesn't always have to be a hen, but like here's an example, bunny on nest, right? So there's other other animals on a nest that people have kind of started to collect as well. So yeah, some of these might be, you know, you just might be surprised at the prices that these things, kind of like these collectibles, have been around for a really long time, and they're just having a little bit of a moment right now. Now, connected to that, every time I see people on social media talk about hens on nest or fairy lamps, they start talking about bee boxes. And I have to say, I'm not a glass person. I've never heard of these before. But all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, I have one of these in my cabinet. And then they pull it out and sell it, right? So it appears to be an Indiana glass, a tiara glass thing. And it's just a little square box, honeybee covered candy dish box. And I guess there's bees on the side or something. $200 for some of these things. So I never had heard of this before. I'm just gonna file it away. Like I don't know that I'm gonna come across this, but you know, somebody had a uranium one sell for $450 apparently. So very, very interesting. I guess just look at square boxes and see what square glass boxes see what's on the side of it. And Google Lens can be your friend while you're out shopping and helping you identify glass. Even replacements.com, I'll use that. I'll pop that open and hit the little search camera on the replacements site itself, and that helps me identify some things. Okay, let's switch gears completely. We're going to talk about some toys. We're going to finish up with some toys. Now, I talked about in an earlier video, I was experimenting with some like Y2K era Little People, Fisher Price type things, but I'm just going to put out one of the higher priced items that I've heard people talk about the most is this vintage Fisher Price Little People Clip Clop Princess Castle playset. Okay, so the whole playset over $200, right? But people are even selling, I guess, Princess Jasmine was kind of rare. So that's just for the figure. $236 for the figure, $225. So we can see she's kind of rare. I've seen some other of the characters on the horse type things that are selling like $40, $50 a piece. Excuse me. So I have it sorted from highest to lowest, as you can see. But that was definitely a place set maybe to kind of file away what that looks like. It's super popular right now. Now, in general, what I think I've decided to do is just kind of keep my eyes open for vintage Little People. And I'm talking like you can narrow down your search on eBay to not be the older 70s, 80s Little People, but the 90s through 2000s. And you know, what I've seen a lot of people do is kind of something like that. You just kind of find some people are just finding them maybe at the bins or somewhere super cheap, the 25-cent box at a thrift store or something like that, and just kind of gather up the loose pieces. Now, I've been like scanning the ones that I find just in case, because some of them are selling for $10, $20, $30, $40 a piece. You know, in my reselling brain, I was, you know, I'd always knew more about like the 70s and 80s Little People, the skinny ones. And to me, these were so much newer that I was just like, you know, I guess if you resell long enough, this is what's going to happen, right? The older stuff kind of just becomes more obsolete. The stuff that you're more familiar with all of a sudden becomes collectible if you do this long enough. So, you know, a lot of 22, if you can find them cheap enough, you know, then I've seen a lot of resellers just lotting up the different figures and selling them as a lot. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, Candyland. Did you know Candyland can be a really good seller? The vintage ones. Let me see what's going on here. Here's the highest price one I saw. A first edition from 1949. Now that's just crazy. This is just the board, I think, from an old one like that. A 1984 brand new Candyland, $150. Okay, some kind of special edition, also sealed. This one's 1949 the reed, so there must be some condition issues. But here's a new one from 1999 that sold for $100. Again, there could have been an offer that was taken. But here's here's one I wanted to show you. Okay, a 1984 Candyland, complete, great condition, so not new, still sold for $89.99. And I think who I had heard it from mentioned that it was like a $75 game if it was complete and in good shape. And you can see that with the free shipping, that kind of pops it right around there. So my theory on this is that who plays Candyland? Toddlers. Toddlers play Candyland, right? And they're not known to be nice to their things. So if you have a nice complete game in good shape where the cards aren't mangled and chewed on and eaten and everything like that, then actually it can, it's not a super common thing. But just in case you come across these things, I just wanted you to be aware of them. I tend to now look at Candyland in a whole different way because of having that little bit of knowledge. Let me see. Do we have anything? Oh, you know what? Because I wasn't sure if I actually did talk about 10 things. So I'm throwing in this bonus one. Again, not like big money, but just, again, something that was kind of trending. And this is a very like 80s, 90s nostalgia type thing. And again, these are things that like I've seen at thrift stores forever. And they might not be just I love my grandma, but there can be I love my mom, my dad, my grandpa, different things like this. But this very 90s kind of iconic crayon drawing type thing. And that might be something that actually, as you can see, the prices are not huge. We have grandma and grandpa for $30. That could be something you come across at a yard sale. But what's interesting, these are just refrigerator magnets for $23. And I was going to show you, I found one of these. It's called Scribbles by Russ, and it's acrylic. I found a grandma one recently. That was the closest I've come to this. But I just wanted to throw that out there. This might be something that would sell faster on like Depop or Poshmark, just because it's this nostalgia thing. Same thing with the cottagecore, the country geese. If it's lower prices, it might just go faster on some of those sites with like a younger demographic, because that's really who's driving these things right now. Okay, let me know in the comments down below if any of these things were a surprise to you, if you're dialed into kind of the reselling world, sharing bits of information. You might have already seen some of these on YouTube videos or on social media, but let me know if there was any surprises or if you had anything that you're specifically looking for at yard sales this summer, and we will stay in touch and see if we can end up finding any of them. I will hopefully be able to hit some yard sales tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have something fun to report after that, and I will talk to you guys later.